What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of All Things Super. I am one of your hosts, Spider, and I am joined by the one and only Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington. How are you doing today, sir?
I am infinitely 3 times more awesome than I was last time you heard me say I was infinitely awesome. Times 10.
Okay.
So 3 times and then times 10.
Last episode.
We're 10xing things.
Last episode, you said you were infinite plus. Right? Now you're 3 times more than infinite plus.
I'm 3 times more than infinitely plus to the 10x.
You know what? I'm not about to try to do that math.
Goddamn right. How are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Happy to be back for another wonderful episode of this show.
There you go. It's so simple what you do.
Yeah. It's really not.
That's why people love you.
It's really not.
You can follow along what you're saying. For me, they're like, this guy.
Yeah. It was like, really
necessary equations.
Like, I don't want to have to take an SAT test just to try to figure out how he's feeling every week.
Just to listen to a podcast, right? It's like, do you just put quantum in front of everything? Yes, I'm quantumly awesome. So it's like awesome on a micro scale.
Apparently, micro.
Yeah, well, from all the way down there to all the way up here is as awesome as I am.
In the teeny verse.
Ooh. Oh, you mean small? I thought you meant martini.
No, not martini.
That works. Martini verse?
A martini verse would be kind of awesome. Not gonna lie.
Goddamn right. I would think everybody would be drunk in that goddamn world.
But if you don't know what this is, oh my God. If you don't know what this is, this is All Things Super, where every week we take a piece of superpower, movie, TV show, even trailers. We watch them, we review them, we react to them, we break them down, and we answer the question, is it super?
Is it?
Is it?
Probably.
Maybe. We'll figure it out. But if you like that, you can subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes that come out. If you want the audio version of the podcast, just search for All Things Super on your favorite podcast streaming platform. And if you want to join in on the conversation, just tweet at us at ATSuperPod.
And we like reading the comments. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all our podcast listeners. I know we give y'all a lot of shit telling y'all to go and listen on the actual video because we want you to see two sexy young men talk about movies and TV shows. But, if you just want us all in your ear, that works too.
Why you have to say like that?
AMR.
ASMR.
ATR. That's the letters I didn't use.
ATR from?
I don't know, man. Who's making these acronyms up? I'm gonna do some of that sexy shit for you guys.
You don't have a lot of people that say that they don't consider ASMR to be sexual.
It's not. It's weird. It's loud. But if you're into it, I'm into it. I'm happy for you. I love that for you. You want to see me chew on candy canes? Maybe eat some lobster bisque. I don't know. Whatever gets you there.
Those are because I know the videos where people are like eating food. Those are called mukbang videos.
Ooh,
and I think that was it started like I want to say like as an Asian thing. I don't know which. Like if it was Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, whatever. So I don't want to like get it wrong, but I know it was typically an Asian thing. The term is Asian, yeah. But I don't know if mukbang is still, cause like I don't know what the Venn diagram of mukbang and ASMR, if they overlap, if it's a just one circle, or if it's like two distinctly different things. I don't know. But I remember seeing a video of this woman just had this huge plate of like boiled seafood, like so she's just cracking open the lobster, like chewing on the lobster. But it's like I find that just so off-putting.
Annoying?
Yes, it's just hearing somebody like
smack. You couldn't have been raised in my house.
Just smacking. all of that. And like, no, stop that.
Yeah, you would have to eat outside with the chickens and the pigs and stuff. You can't bring that to the dinner table. Mm-mm. That is not cordial at all. It's like
smacking and slurping and
why is there audio a soundtrack to your appetite? Right. I just can't see it. Whatever turns you on, that's what you hate.
No.
Bring them whip shots. Bring them Cardi B whip shots to the bedroom and turn your microphone on and let it take you there. That's my impersonation of the whip shot. But surprisingly, it sounds like a frother.
Yeah, it kind of does.
I'm working on my
espresso machine.
I'm working on it.
But completely unrelated to all of that, this week we rewatched and we're going to be reviewing Ant-Man. If you've been joining us over the last couple of weeks, we are preparing ourselves to start Phase 5 of the MCU with the first feature film, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So we're rewatching Ant-Man. We're rewatching Ant-Man and the Wasp to lead up to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So this week we are reviewing Ant-Man, which debuted, which I didn't realize how long ago this was, debuted in 2015. This was before they even started with the new like pre-roll of the Avengers or the MCU like opening title scene and everything. They still had like the comics flips.
Pages. Yeah. Hey, let me tell you something. It felt like that too in the rewatch. It felt like I had to ask myself, is this Phase 1?
It was the end of Phase 2. Ant-Man was the last movie of Phase 2.
Yeah, they did Ant-Man wrong. They did him wrong. Well, there was a lot going on in the end of Phase 1 and at the end of Phase 2. Ant-Man is a lesser known A-list hero. Can he be considered A-list now? I mean, he did practically come out of the quantum realm and save the universe.
I mean, I feel like, I would say that I would well, no, I still say I would still say that Ant-Man is probably considered to be like a B tier Marvel superhero.
Damn.
I think it was I think he's higher now than what he was before the MCU.
Is it because of his skill set?
I think it's because of Paul Rudd. I think that's the main reason. Because
why? What's wrong with Paul?
No, nothing is wrong with Paul Rudd. No, you saying why is he not? Why he's not an A tier?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's about
to go up. No, let's be realistic. It's his caliber of villains, which he's not going to have that problem coming into Quantumania. He's fighting the biggest guy there is, setting up the whole villain arc in the quantum and multiverse saga. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to make it out of the quantum realm, if not make it out of the quantum realm alive. Best case scenario,
I don't think he's going to die.
2023, I don't care about spoilers, okay? You're here, you deal with it. I think he's either going to get stuck in the quantum realm or he's going to get killed. I don't think he's going to die because, again, Secret Wars, I think Secret Wars, we're going to try to get every last superhero squeeze on the shot or somewhere along the line to make. You remember the Marvel poster? The one where it has everybody on it? Like Spider-Man's in the front, Wolverine's there, X-Men are there, like everybody's there.
Yeah, but the animated,
it's like a poster.
Yeah,
it's at your nearest Walmart, Target.
All of them are like standing like this, like a white room, white background type thing, and it's just like a
yeah. Think of that and think of Secret Wars, because somewhere along the line they're going to try to get as many characters on the screen as they possibly can. Let's be honest. At the end of Endgame, it was one of the most iconic shots, and we've been leading up to it since Avengers 1 with the cinematic spiral shot, and we hinted back to it in What If with the cinematic spiral shot, and in Endgame, when they decided that they're going to go back in time, everyone's in the Avengers compound. They stand up. You see Cap, you see Iron Man, you see Hulk in the background, you see Thor, You see Rocket. You see everyone standing there. And it's iconic. These shots are iconic. So at some point in time, if you got a competent director that knows what they're doing, they're going to try to make this shot happen. It's iconic. It sells. You use it in promotional footage. You use it in trailers. You use it in breakdowns. It's iconic. And they had that in Endgame right when Cap was like Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
They showed everybody. Spider-Man was there. Doctor Strange. They showed the Wasp. Even Howard the Duck was there. I didn't see him initially. I had to be told he was there, but there was a lot going on. I didn't know Howard was there. But they're going to try to recreate that. But the point of what I'm saying is that's why I think that he's going to be stuck in the quantum realm versus die in the quantum realm. Or maybe he's stuck there and then Cassie has to try to get him back, because I think he's going to try to, if they can. Here's a spoiler. Deal with it. Kane's coming out. He's getting out of the quantum realm. There's no doubt about it. If he is not out already, because there's already hints that he's already out inside of Moon Knight. He had already been a part of the Egyptian culture, and they're showing in other places where he's already affected time. So my prediction is he's getting out, or if he's not out already. Also, new prediction, there has to be somebody that's going to take He Who Remains' spot. We already understand that Kane is a villain. He Who Remains was a lesser villain of the villains. It's the best of all evils, right? He's done horrible, unspeakable things. He even told Loki and Sylvie, grow up. These are the things that need to happen to keep the timeline intact. If not, there's multiple mass chaos. So I had to do what I had to do to keep things in check. I think they will not return King into that prime position. Prediction, I think we're going to have someone that's unbiased, like the new Adam Warlock, that's going to take control of the timeline. I know, it's a lot. You're like, what? Frankie, how did you make those connections? Slowly and intricately. So in the rewatch of Ant-Man, I got the overall feeling of MCU phase 1, phase 2. And like you said, it's at the tail whip of phase 2. This is a very different movie from what the MCU is right now. Did you feel that?
I didn't see it as, because this wasn't, of course, this is an origin story, so it's a lot simpler. It's a lot more contained into just what we're worried about. They're not bringing in outside of, we get the cold open at the beginning of the film where the Triskelion is being constructed, and we see the beginning, the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we see Hank Pym is working with Peggy Carter and Howard Stark. And so we get
By the way, she could do all that.
Well, now at the age, she couldn't. But
ouch.
But so we're getting, we have that part with the association with S.H.I.E.L.D. We have the cameo with Anthony Mackie and Falcon, and Ant-Man and Falcon fighting. And other than that, that's the only outside look that we get at anything other than just what we're focusing on with Ant-Man inside of the movie. So I'll say it's different in that way, because we're not diving as deep into the connected universe of the MCU, but we're still sprinkling that information in there just to let everyone know that, yes, this is all still connected. This is all happening in the same universe. So I can't say that it felt different, because I'm thinking about the TV shows now. The TV shows are taking care of this, because of Miss Marvel, because of Moon Knight. These were self-contained stories. We're talking about just these characters and what they're going through at the time, but we're still getting hints, nods, little Easter eggs to the larger connected Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I felt like this formula that they've been using kind of just fit in place to what they're still doing. It's just that we're not getting many more origin stories in movies these days, and they're happening more in our TV shows, the Marvel TV shows.
I think everything you just said was accurate, because the last origin story that we saw on the big screen was the Eternals.
Yeah, and that really wasn't necessarily that wasn't really necessary in the origin story because it was more of a well, here they are now, and then let's also take a look at where they've been. But here where they are now, but this is where they've been. But here they are now, and this is also where they've been. And so it's not like they're discovering their powers, they're discovering their abilities. You know, we saw with Ant-Man, he's beginning to be Ant-Man. We saw Moon Knight like understanding why he's Moon Knight. Miss Marvel figuring out her powers. She-Hulk trying to come to terms with her being a Hulk now.
So the hero and yeah,
right.
Hey, I felt that it's like a slap in the face from the studio. It's like here's the Eternals. Here's the Eternals. They were here the whole time. I was like, wait a minute.
Exactly.
No, okay, it's all right.
But yeah, but I mean,
no, I'm saying in the sense of you're right on that. We don't get really any origin stories inside of the main MCU. You're right about that. But to me, it felt like, I guess that's what I mean when it felt like Phase 1, Phase 2, because it was an origin story.
Mm-hmm.
Not a very popular. I mean, outside, when I say not a very popular, of course, I mean out to the general public, outside of the fandom, us guys. We know who Hank Pym is. We know who Ant-Man is. Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, had a very flawed character trait, domestic violence, abusing his wife many times. Janet Van Dyne, who was also one of the members of S.H.I.E.L.D., an Avenger. He was very, very abusive to her. He had a lot of drinking problems, a lot of demons, and he was just an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you go back and look at some of the older animated series, I don't know if they're on Disney or not, their personality traits that are evident in his character.
And I think
interesting enough,
I think in the animated series Marvel Avengers Assemble, I think Janet was a member of the Avengers before Hank was. Which I think that's canon in the comics. I think that Wasp was an Avenger before Hank.
Yeah, because he couldn't get his shit together. He had some demons that he was dealing with. You know what I mean?
And I mean, I feel like around that time, most of the men in the comics they had, were not necessarily very. They were heroes, but in their personal lives, they still had like a lot of shit.
They're flawed.
Yeah, very flawed. Yeah. Very flawed.
Hey, how was your day? Hey, shut up. Where's dinner?
why isn't steak overcooked?
The world. Yeah, you get what? I'll show you what to cry for. We're like, whoa, what is going on?
Let me go ahead and just put past that page
right there. Yeah, like would you love Spider-Man if you knew he slapped Mary Jane around?
No, absolutely not. No, I would not be able to tolerate that in the least.
And barely pulled his punches. It's like, oh my God, Spider-Man, you're horrible.
Like you just put a hole in that man's face. Like I understand the shocker was robbing a bank, but damn, did you have to cave his skull in?
Yes, Thanos. Oh man! Now I'll say this:
he could have stopped pulling his punches with Thanos. What would happen if Spider-Man didn't pull his punches against Thanos?
Who said that he didn't, though?
I mean, I feel like Peter Parker, even though it is an alien that's threatening to wipe out half existence in the universe,
I
think Peter Parker would still pull his punches.
Thanos is thick.
He is.
So don't get it twisted. They CGI'd some muscles in this dude. He didn't look like he couldn't take a punch. In fact, Tony kind of wailed on him, and he was like, all that for a drop of blood. And
I mean, even Hulk got some hits in, but they still didn't have any effect on him. But I still think that Peter it's like muscle memory, right? Everybody that Peter fights, especially when it comes to like common criminals, he has to pull his punches. So I think that's just ingrained in him when he's fighting.
Really be a murder.
Yeah.
That is the question, though. Do you think Peter Parker pulled his punches with Thanos? Leave your comments in the comments section, because he was on Titan and he did get a couple hits in, especially when Doctor Strange was portaling him from one side to another side. Thanos looked like he could take a punch, and he didn't really go down, but was he pulling his punches?
It's magic.
Good question. That's a
magic. Magic with a kick.
Right in the neck.
And then he got it right and slammed his ass down.
Instantly called him an insect. And it's like, oh, wow. You are Spider-Man.
And then just
but we're talking about the other insect villain.
Yes. Well, one of the other insect. Yeah, one of the other insect heroes. Because there's a whole bug squad.
Who else is left?
I mean, you got Ant-Man, you got Spider-Man, you got Wasp, you got Mantis. So there's a couple of bugged villains.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, not villains, heroes. But yeah, I think it's just the 4 now.
No, but yeah, that Christmas special make me look at Mantis real different. I don't know if she's a hero.
Hopping on the wall. I'm like, terrifying. Why did they introduce that? I don't know. I want to talk to James Gunn. Just if I could ask him one single question, just say why was that choice made? Because that was horrifying. And I don't blame Kevin Bacon for 1 second for running and screaming for his life.
I would have took that leap off the roof too. I would have jumped right off that roof onto that.
I've seen aliens. I've seen species. This thing is about to. And Spider-Man had the same reaction. Please don't lay an egg in me.
Right. She is terrifying. Oh my God. And just creepy. Those eyes get wide and those little antennas just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Spray with rage. But Ant-Man, criminal, established this early. First scene, he's in jail, fighting a guy that he's unable to knock out. And again, this is a goodbye ritual. We get to meet Paul Rudd in the role that he was destined to play. He's getting out of jail, and immediately he is establishing with Luis, his friend, who picks him up out from jail and says, I'm not going back to jail. Done with that. We don't really get to see how long he's been in jail or talk about it, but it'll be interesting if they ever retcon that and says that something happened in jail. Again, we like to loop these movies in time into each other. You'll see. Trust me, they're doing it with AIM and Tony Stark and MODOK. So he's now out of jail, staying with his friend, wants to go see his daughter because he has a daughter. Obviously, he went to jail for a while. After she was born, because she knows who her father is. So I would say sometime shortly thereafter, he did the crime of robbing, basically being Robin Hood, taking millions of dollars and giving it back to the people after it was wrongfully stole from him. So he's a good guy a bad guy with a heart of gold. So great establishment of who the character was. We had quick dialogue saying that, he's a engineer. He has a master's in engineering. So when we see him tinkering on the Ant-Man suit, we understand that he knows what he's doing. Not as smart as Hank Pym. I think we'd like to not give Hank Pym the acknowledgement of him being a genius as well. But he definitely is in the same conversation, if you want to talk about intelligence, as a Tony Stark. Rewatching it, I didn't pay attention to when Hank was opening up his work area, his workstation, he pressed glass.
Yeah.
Just regular glass. And there was a code inside the glass. I was like, they don't give Hank Pym enough credit for being intelligent.
Right.
I mean, the guy used magnetic waves to communicate with ants, to make him do what he wants to do. This is tech. I was thinking about it, even when Darren Cross created his shrinking suit, he still didn't have the ability to control ants. He can't control ants. He's not the Ant-Man. He's a Yellow Jacket guy.
He can't control Yellow Jackets.
At all. Though he has thrusters in his...
If he could, I know that there are like hundreds of species of ants, and you have the variations of what different ants can do different things. Still, if you had a villain who could control Yellow Jackets are horrifying. They are painful. If you had a swarm of Yellow Jackets coming after you, he could basically do anything that he wanted to do if he could control Yellow Jackets.
More so. So we got a great establishment of who Ant-Man is, the character himself. Well, Paul Rudd. Well, Scott Lang. Right. Staying with his friend, goes to see his daughter, wants to be a part of his daughter's life, realized that his ex has moved on with a detective. I
think he's a detective. He was a plainclothes cop, so I figure he's a detective.
Either that or he had a lot of off days. But yeah, he was a detective, and wants to see his daughter. They won't let him see his daughter, which is interesting that he stood up and he was like, "Dude, you don't pay child support. You're not around." And it's
Well, I
like
could
all this
arrest you right now.
judgment, like for what? So clearly, there's a little bias. I think he wasn't getting none from Mrs. Lang or whatever Scott's ex is. So he was probably just upset. You know how it is when you go on that dry spell, you just get grumpy. So that ain't had nothing to do with Scott.
Before we move past that, I felt like that. Now, I've never been in a relationship with someone who got arrested and went to jail, but I feel like the reasoning.
You should try it.
No, I don't want to try.
It's not as bad as you think.
I don't want to try. But I feel like
super judgy.
The animosity and hostility that both of them held towards Scott, I felt like, to me personally, I felt like it was unfounded, because I could see if it was something that Scott had done which was stupid and reckless and just like very criminal. But you would think
they know what he did.
Right, they know what he did. They know what he went to jail for. But I feel like they could have showed him some kind of compassion. Like, yeah, it's hard getting a job after you have a criminal record. And so, yeah, I haven't paid child support, but you understand. Like he told Paxton.
When was he gonna pay it?
Right. Like, I just got out. But he told Paxton, he was like, I'm trying to get, I'm trying to find work, but it's hard, when you have a record. You know that. You're a cop. You know how hard it is for criminals to get a job after they get out. You know why a lot of criminals fall back to crime after they get out of jail, because they can't catch a break. So they go back to the easy thing. But the way that they were like, you're not welcome around here, you're such a horrible person. It was like, no, he was working for a company. The company was robbing people, and he got fired because he brought it to everybody's attention. And so he was like, well, I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to get these people their money back. He got caught. He went to jail. And I feel like after he got out, it was like, okay, not getting an invitation to his daughter's birthday party?
So wrong.
I just felt like that was like, I felt like all of that was just unfounded. I was like, he's still a good dude.
These are the villains of the story.
Right. He's not a he's not a murderer. He's not like a cannibal. He's not a serial killer. He's like, he didn't kidnap anybody. He just tried to make sure these people that got their money stolen from him got their money back. And, oh, you're horrible. I'm never letting you see your daughter again until you pay child support and get a job, get a place, get an apartment. Then we can talk about visitation. Like, damn.
And let's be honest. The first thing the man did when he got out of jail was get a job. He applied at Baskin Robbins, and he was working the job. He was showing up. Clearly he was there. Even helping idiots that's ordering burgers at Baskin Robbins.
So,
like, dude, the names outside the building.
I didn't realize upon first watch, because, of course, when it came out, I went saw it in theaters and I watched it a couple times after that. I never realized that Paul Rudd was a writer on the movie. He's a writer on Ant-Man. He's a writer on Ant-Man and the Wasp. And now that I know that he's a writer, or he was one of the writers that helped write the screenplay for the movie, the jokes make a lot more sense now. Like, I can understand where the humor is coming from. But the dude standing at the counter at Baskin Robbins, like, yeah, I'll just get a burger. He's like, well, we serve ice cream. He's like, what about a pretzel? Right. Like a hot pretzel with mustard?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Crazy.
I'll just have whatever's hot and fresh. Like, he's like, can you help this idiot?
Clearly. The opposite of both of those words are not here.
But then but then it goes all the way into, because you can see that Scott as a character has only so much patience for that, because we saw in Endgame when he's taking pictures of the kids with the Hulk, and he was like, want a picture with me? I'm Ant-Man. They're like, kind of unsure about it. He's like, nah, he doesn't want it. He doesn't care. Take the goddamn phone. So he's like, he gets to that limit, and he's like, you know what? I'm done with this. Take the goddamn phone. Get out of my face.
true Scott Lang. It's
Oh
true to the
man,
character.
exactly.
So they sit him in the back and they let him know that, Baskin
Baskin
Robbins
Robbins always
always
finds
finds
out.
out. Wouldn't it be so funny if Baskin Robbins is a front for like Hydra or something later on down the line?
I don't know because we saw in the Quantumania trailer they call him back now that he's helped save the world and he was the employee of what did he say, employee of the century or something like that was on the plaque.
It fits, it tracks. And then I noticed too, he had Jack on his name tag.
Yeah,
which his name's not Jack, it's Scott.
Right.
So he really tried to be, somebody else.
Right. He was like, I know they're not going to, if they know who I am, I know they're not going to hire me. And we were talking about this before we started recording. We were talking about, adults working in like fast food and like retail jobs that are typically meant for teenagers. So it's like like he said to Louise when they were driving away from the prison, I have a master's in computer engineering or electrical engineering. I'm going to be fine. But it's like your degree doesn't mean anything when you have a record. So nobody in any corporation wants to hire an ex-con. So
especially for what he did,
right?
Though. I mean,
exactly.
You gotta think about it corporate-wise. If we have any secrets, this guy can literally expose us to the masses.
And nobody wants that. And mostly, especially like your big Fortune 500 companies, a lot of them have things that they don't want coming out into the light.
We don't know anything.
I know nothing.
We don't talk about Fortune 500.
I didn't name anybody in particular. So it shoe fits though. It was
that corporate day.
But yeah, so and even after that, and Luis was talking about, we got to score, we got this thing. He was still like, no, I'm not going back to crime. I'm going to figure something out. And then he did all of this, and he was sitting in the van after he left Cassie's party. He's like figuring out how much for rent, how much, for child support, and all this other kind of stuff. How long would it take before I could save up enough and like get like out of arrears and child supports and back on track before he could see Cassie? Yeah. And it wasn't until then he was like, well, damn, I'm never going to make this amount of money. Did you see what he wrote down? I know they're in San Francisco, but it was like last month's rent, $2,100 for first month rent, $2,100 for last month's rent. And you think he's probably looking at like maybe a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment because it's just him, but $2,100?
Yeah, he's actually staying in somewhere that's not realistic for the Bay Area. So clearly Marvel didn't do their research on what the rent is.
And this was in 2015 too.
That was still not accurate. This is that amount will probably get you a garage, and the bathroom is probably outside like an outhouse. So, and you're sharing that garage with 3 other people. That's the only way that's going to add up. That $2,100 is your portion of the rent. Probably would
staying with the rest of the crew, staying with Louise,
P.I. and
listen, Kurt and Dave.
Yeah. Who are you? I'm Dave. So was not ready for that.
Yeah.
The jokes landed so hard in this one. Yeah, because Ant-Man, Scott Lang, was trying to do what he needed to do to see his daughter, because his ex came out and said, get a job, get child support, pay child support. Then we could possibly talk about visitation. Right. And it's like, as absurd as all of that is, because even if you're not doing these things, you should still not be denied of seeing your child. And let your child make their own decisions about the quality and caliber of you are as a father. Clearly, she loves her father. He was her hero.
Right.
They have a connection and a bond. You could tell when he got her this hideous, ugly rabbit, and she loved it.
Ugly. I love it. And clearly, he's not a danger to the child, which is one of the most important things.
He showed up, he's present, he's at the birthday party, and y'all are trying to shun him because he did the right thing by other people.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all the villain of this story. Exactly. I'm trying to tell you right now. So realizing that he's not going to make enough, he doesn't have a job prospect, he doesn't want to go back to crime, but now he's intrigued because he needs to make some money, right? He needs to find a place, he needs to figure some stuff out, and maybe get enough money from this score that he can float until he's able to, level out his situation. So he's asking Luis for the details. one of the most comical things in the Ant-Man series. I'm disappointed that they don't have it in Quantumania. I don't think we're getting a return of Louise, Dave, and the other guy, Kurt.
I know Dave for sure. T.I. is not coming back with Quantumania. I don't know about Louise and Kurt.
Yeah, I can't see him because I think the majority of the movie happens in the quantum realm.
Yeah, unless we see them like at the very beginning or at the very end for like some kind of reunion thing. But yeah, Michael Pena. And I was thinking about this because I've seen Michael Pena in what was that Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, and how he's such a different, like of course, a much more serious character. He's working as a CIA agent, you know, and you know, Bob Lee Swagger, Mark Wahlberg's character, like enlists him to help.
Who's naming these characters? Who?
I don't know.
So as soon as you say that, I just wanted to hit an Old Spice whistle.
But no, just the range that Michael Pena has, because he plays goofy, he plays silly, he plays funny, but then he can also play like really serious and really committed. Yeah. And it just is.
Yeah, I seen him in Dora the Explorer.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's just the dude's he's very talented. He's very talented. I like Michael Pena as an actor. But Louise is just I can't see anybody else playing Louise unless it was like a younger like Cheech Marin or something like that. That's probably the only other. And I don't know if like maybe he had like drew some inspiration from Cheech. But I felt like that was kind of like in that realm of that kind of comedy.
Right, because it's the flashback storyboard sequence of how we came to those events, and he's voicing over everyone's.
Yeah, Creed stupefying.
And then they threw Stanley in as a cameo. It's like very unexpected. So clearly the magic, obviously, because it went back to it in the sequel. Right. We won't probably get it in the third one, but it's okay. It's not there, so we can miss it. And then if they come back with an Ant-Man 4, then we can get it again.
Right.
I will say this. Going into Quantumania, after rewatching Ant-Man, a lot of Quantumania makes sense now. So Ant-Man's reasoning for even helping Kang is a more compelling reason now after watching the first one. So I think they really went back and looked at and analyzed the first Ant-Man. The time that he was in prison, again, we didn't establish how much time he was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 years that he was gone, that it felt like 5 hours, or still 5 years, he didn't get time with his daughter as well.
Right.
Now he comes back.
Can you imagine, though? Can you imagine being just like in a coma or whatever, for whatever reason that you're unconscious, and what you thought was 5 hours, or what felt like 5 hours to you wake up and it's been 5 years, and
mind blown.
Everything, because just us living through time sequentially as we do now, and we can look back. Here we are in 2023. We look back at 2018, and we can see how much stuff has changed. But we were in that progression of it. But to close your eyes and then open them again, and then have that 5 years change, just like how much of a mind trip is that? And it's like.
It's a mind trip now, even though we lived through it. You and I were just talking about it, having the convenience to call in and make your groceries and go into the store and pick it up.
Right.
Or having delivery come from a non-traditional delivery guy.
Mm-hmm. Just like, a dude in the car pulls up. Right.
Just pulls up and he's bringing my food. You don't have a uniform on? Do you even work for that company? Nope, I'm third party.
Right.
Okay. It would be trippy unless you kind of live through the progression of it. Like your cell phone now could do way more than your flip phone could, telecom, than it could 5 years ago. That's for my visuals, so everybody can know. I got a water grenade.
Oh my God.
If you're on the audio, you're like, what? What? I did something weird with my hands with the telecom from Wakanda and Forever. I'm giving them context. This is why they need to go to the video versus the audio. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, yeah, it will be just jarring if you didn't live through it. So his motivations are much more clear now because he's lost not just the 5 years, but tack on whatever time he was in prison.
Right.
I mean, how old was Cassie? How old did she turn? I'm just trying to get an estimate of how much time he might have got.
In the movie, they don't. Of course, they don't. They don't say it, but I want to say she had to be like maybe 6 or 7. She couldn't have been that old. She was still a little kid.
Yeah, but she knew who he was. Yeah. So you gotta say you know who he is around what? She still had that childlike innocence. So maybe 3?
Yeah, I would say probably about 3 or 4. So he probably spent a couple years in jail.
Like 5, 6, 7, maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
On top of the 5 years.
Right.
So 8 years. Oh my, you barely was in this kid's life.
Mm-hmm. And especially those 5 years that he was, from the blip, because it was like that, those formative years, like, because when we saw Cassie when he got out of the quantum realm, she had to be like 14, 15 at that point.
Right.
So it's like you're missing a big chunk.
Golden years. Right. Yeah. And again, as they showed on his phone in the trailer for Quantumania, Cassie was still a kid. He still had the child photo. Mm-hmm. That's not to say he couldn't have changed it, but this is when he knew her most.
Right.
When you get to be a teenager, you're rebellious. You're going through your own stuff, trying to find your own way. Probably there's a distance or an unappreciation for your father not being there. Mm-hmm. The man just wants time, and the whole purpose of me saying this is I understand his motivations in Quantumania more now. Can I imagine what?
Can you imagine if they hit him with that? Oh, well, he doesn't have a relationship with Cassie now because like she resents him for not being there for like those 5 years or whatever. That'll be rough. But I mean, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like Cassie has a pretty good relationship with Scott. We saw at the end of Endgame when all of the families were together, we saw Scott, Hope, and Cassie kind of just sitting on the porch watching fireworks and stuff. So it seems like they have a close relationship. So I hope there's not any resentment, because of course it wasn't his fault. He got stuck in a quantum realm, and we don't know if he didn't get stuck in a quantum realm, he could have got snapped away.
This is true too. And at the same time, why was he in the quantum realm? He was getting quantum energy to help Ghost.
Right.
It's not like he was going there to be I'm just going to hang out in the quantum realm because, that's what I do on the weekends. He actually went in there with a purpose of actually helping somebody and got caught and trapped inside.
Right.
Sucks. So they really don't like Scott.
But that's why, because he got stuck in the quantum realm between Ant-Man and the Wasp and coming out in Endgame, that's why I don't think that they're going to stick him back in there and get him stuck again in Quantumania, because I feel like they've already been there. And then I don't think he's going to die either, but I don't know what is... I think he's going to get beat by Kang. That's not a question. That's going to happen. But I think
they both get out.
Yeah, I think they both get out, but I think that Scott gets out so he can warn the rest of the Avengers or whoever else is available, because we've already talked. We've already talked about, like, right now we really don't have Avengers. We have the Thunderbolts. They have their own team forming. We do have
an Avengers.
Who?
We do.
Who?
You have the new Captain America,
right?
Sam Wilson.
Okay.
So if you have a captain, you have some Avengers, because you got to have a leader. You got to have the captain. The captain's the leader.
Okay. So who he's been in contact with that where he can call up the Avengers if they have an Ultron level threat?
Give me a second. Hulk is still here. He has a son, but he's here. He can call Hulk because he's smart Hulk now. So there's no way that he doesn't have contact with that. And wait a minute, Shield's not gone. Sword is here. So there's still that communication.
Sword is still in space.
Yeah, but they're just looking at the Earth overall.
Yeah, but I don't think that Sam has a direct line to Nick Fury.
Nick Fury calls you. You don't call Nick. That's how that works.
Well,
it's like
I
a
don't.
Jay-Z situation.
I don't think
Jay-Z
that.
call you.
Yeah,
Don't
but
call Jay-Z.
I don't think that because as far as Sam knows, I think no, because Sam was at the funeral and Nick was at the funeral too. So Sam knows that Nick is alive.
Very, very well. And
No, he
then you
went.
still
No,
have
because that was at the end of Winter Soldier when Nick Fury was like when they were saying goodbye at his grave. Was Sam there? Because I know Steve and Natasha were there.
yeah, he was there. He
Okay.
said, if anybody's looking for me, tell them I'm right here.
So yeah, so he knows that Nick Fury is still
immediately
alive.
Sam came right there. So
yeah.
And then you have you still got the whole Ant-Man squad, right? You got Hank, you got Janet, you got Hope, and you have Cassie, even though you don't want to say they're Avengers. Okay, that's fine. You still have who was I gonna say that's in there? Well, I'm not gonna count Moon Knight because you don't know anything about
none
Moon
of
these
new Phase 4 characters from the TV shows are Avengers.
We have Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. Wong knows about Shang-Chi. Hulk knows about Shang-Chi. Captain Marvel knows about Shang-Chi. I don't know if Falcon does.
And you also have Captain Marvel. Well, Falcon knows Bruce.
Right.
Did Falcon go back in time?
No, Falcon didn't go back in time. Falcon got dusted.
He sure did.
Yeah.
But even though he came back, a lot of stuff happened off screen. So let's realistically look at the Avengers. Let's realistically look at who can stop Kang. Okay, so he has.
Nobody.
That's not true. There's some Avengers left.
But that can stop Kang. No, I understand that there are some Avengers left, but if what I'm saying is that what I'm saying is that if my theory is that Ant-Man gets out of the quantum realm solely to serve as because just the same way in
First of all, to see Ant-Man and Falcon connect again is going to be epic.
Yeah, because of course they're going to go back. They're going to go back to the first time that they encountered each other. But just as when Ant-Man he served as the sort of the vehicle to push forward the plot in Endgame to get them to the idea of time travel. I think that he's also going to serve as the now notification, just as Bruce did when he said, "Oh, Thanos is coming." Now we have Ant-Man telling the Avengers, "Oh, Kang is coming."
Well, Loki is already doing that,
but Loki's still stuck in the TVA.
This is true, and we got War Machine. So if we got War Machine, that connection, I feel like we did the red yarn connecting the dots here. We got War Machine that opens up to Riri Williams because Armor Wars is coming. We're going to have to see that connection. And then we got Wakanda, Dora Milaje. They're not technically Avengers, but they're right there on the line. We already had that conversation. When he said Avengers, who was there?
Everybody was there. Everybody was there. But I'm just saying that I don't see, because in order for us as an audience to be able to progress a story, to see the connection of these movies into going into the new Secret Wars and then Kang Dynasty, somebody has to kick it off. And it's either going to be Kang kicking it off or it's going to be Ant-Man kicking it off. And at some point, Ant-Man is going to, I just don't see them ending 2 movies in a row with him being stuck in the quantum realm. That's all I'm saying. I just don't see it.
There's some Avengers left. They're scattered.
No, I understand that, but they're scattered. They're because I feel like Sam and Rhodey are probably the 2 Avengers. If Bucky's going off doing this Thunderbolts thing and he's not considering himself part of the Avengers, I'm not saying that Bucky isn't an Avenger. If he's not considering himself to be part of the Avengers, then it's Sam and Rhodey. Basically, that's your front line.
Spider-Man. They know Spider-Man.
They know Spider-Man. They don't know who Peter Parker is. I don't think before Far From Home, I don't think the only people that knew Peter Parker was Doctor Strange and Iron Man.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is still
until he introduced himself to Carol in Endgame.
Yeah, but she shouldn't know who he is.
No, she's not going to know who he is.
It's gonna be
But
interesting.
I'm just saying that it was a very small group of Avengers who knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
You got
So
the Dora Milaje, you got Captain Marvel, you got Rhodey as the War Machine
mm-hmm.
or Iron Patriot or whoever he was going to portray.
He went
You
back to
got
War
Hulk,
Machine.
and I'm pretty sure you're going to have Scar in there. Right now, off screen, you got Hulk probably training Scar and they're fighting. You got She-Hulk. Um, I was going to say Titania. Well, please don't throw her in there.
I don't know why you would even mention her.
I was thinking about that long ass kick, and I was like, she's probably kicking now to get to the destination.
She's back to the dentist to get her veneers touched up.
Oh wow, that's why that was on my list. Anyway, so Ant-Man's,
back to Ant-Man.
Ant-Man's has to take the job. He asks for the facts. We get the comedy sequence of explaining how we got to this information. Now, keep in mind, they don't know what's in this safe. They just think it's of value. They just
know it's a big safe, right?
And he does the most genius thing, which is, steal fingerprints off a doorknob. It's funny how he would think that the thumb would be there versus here versus whatever. For the sake of the movie, we got a fingerprint.
Well, I mean, if
we made
depending on how you're reaching for a door. I mean, I can see if you're reaching underhanded with your left hand or you're reaching overhanded with your right hand, it could be. I mean, that makes sense where he got it from. If you're reaching overhand with your right hand, it's kind of about where the thumb would be.
Yeah, use some infrared light.
Of course, movie magic. There's no way that he would have got it first try.
Unless Nick Fury did the same thing with the tape, right?
True.
So, engineering.
I guess.
The point is, he got the thumbprint, made a mold of it, used that to open the door, and then used some genius engineering to freeze the door open to a point that it explodes. It's interesting that he did put a air mattress down to catch the door versus letting it just hit the ground. Because he's a considerate thief.
But it still made a noise. It still made a noise anyway. It's still. I guess maybe it would not have. It wasn't as loud as it would have been if he didn't have the air mattress on the floor. But it still made a big clang when it hit the ground.
Inside, we get the most realistic interpretation that you could possibly get for the Ant-Man suit. Shout out to the costume team. If you guys seen the original Ant-Man costume, it is weird. There's a throwback inside of the Endgame where the helmet sits on Hank Pym's work shelf when they de-age Michael Douglas. I don't think we give Michael Douglas enough credit in this movie. He actually carried this movie very well, very well. Told the emotions. I actually, in this rewatch, was getting kind of choked up because you knew what he was saying when he was saying it and why he didn't tell his daughter about what happened to her mother, and dealing with the fact that he lost her and not want to accept the fact that he could potentially, actually accepting the fact that he could potentially lose her and not want her to be in the suit, and having her be rageful and vengeful his daughter Hope, because she's more than capable of putting on the suit and getting it done, but he does not want that to happen with her. And that's the beast story in this story that makes sense. And it's not until Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, Scott Lang, explains to her that he's not invincible. He's what's the word that I'm using? Expendable. He doesn't want to lose you. He doesn't want to take the opportunity to lose you. And even though they're saying, when I first watched it, Hank was saying, I can't wear the suit because it took a toll on me. Because they say if you try to use the suit without the helmet, it messes with your mind. I don't think that was the situation with Hank. I think the situation of him losing his wife is the toll that it took on him. And I didn't catch that the first time. It was not until the rewatch. I was like, that's what you potentially mean, because I still could be wrong. So I love the fact that they're saying true to Scott's character. You're a thief, right? You went in there and you opened it up and you saw a motorcycle suit. What else could it possibly be? You see this weird looking helmet, all leather kind of motorcycle-ish thing. And he was like, okay, this is all I see in here that's probably worth something. I'm going to take that. Gets it. Can't make heads or tails out of it like anybody would do. he tries it on just to kind of, hey, what's this thing about?
Right. And but the
Most
thing about it,
weirdest.
what I do appreciate is that you saw that he before he put it on, he took it apart and he was like kind of checking it. He had like his little electric meters or whatever, I guess, to make sure that it wouldn't booby trapped or it wouldn't electrocute him if he put it on or anything like that. So we see that, and I don't think we get to see a lot of this in the sequel, but we get to see we get to see Scott's intelligence.
He's intelligent.
We get to see that master's degree at work. We get to see him actually being smart. He's not just the comic relief. He's just not, a bumbling kind of clumsy type fool.
Smart.
No, he's not Hank Pym smart, but he is very intelligent. And we also don't get to see there's a lot of running in this movie for Ant-Man. We get to see it, especially during his training. Of course, because you're smaller, you have to overcome a greater distance. So there's a lot of running for Ant-Man. And so I guess because we saw in Civil War, of course, we get to see in Ant-Man and the Wasp too, but that he can become big now. So he doesn't have to do as much running. But the athleticism that Scott has, because we saw him like hopping over the fence, we saw him climbing up the side of the house.
Jackie Chan shit, right?
We saw him like, running through the tunnels and the ant mounds and stuff like that. We saw him like running and sliding across the car when he was running across the model when he was small. So we see that Ant-Man is not only smart, but he's agile, he's athletic. We see him when he's fighting Hope. We saw him when he was fighting Falcon, how he did like the Black Widow, like triangle Hurricanrana choke.
Well, and then, that's more of a Wasp Hurricanrana choke.
I mean,
when he did it, she was looking like, oh, he learned my shit.
Yeah. But I mean, Black Widow did it first in Iron Man 2. I'm just saying. But he did learn it. He did learn it from Hope.
I'm thinking if it was a Black Widow versus Wasp type of fight,
Black Widow will
on top.
I think Black Widow will win.
Let's just go ahead and leave your comments in the comment section, because that's something that I would like to know.
Team Black Widow or Team Wasp? Who do you think will win? Natasha Romanoff or Hope Van Dyne?
Hope has the advantage. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Does she?
Did you not see
Natasha was an assassin?
Did she not just flip? Did he flip Natasha in Civil War? You saw that, right?
Who flipped Natasha?
Ant-Man did. Flipped her like a pancake. Other side. Go back and watch. All right, so Ant-Man's learning his abilities, and yes, without any super soldier serum, he's very agile. He has the ability to slide across cars, models. Hey, here's something that we're not giving this movie credit for. They spent a lot of time in detail on this shrinking aspect ideas. The sequences look great, even though in the rewatch I realized it's a shorter amount of time than what I initially thought it was. He's in the tub, he gets washed out of the tub, falls through a crack in the floor, goes down to the club, lands on a record player.
There's a random club inside of an apartment building. I don't know.
Makes no sense. None at all. But
and it's in the middle of the day, too. This was literally the middle of the day, and this is just this nightclub, this rave going off on the second, on like the second or third floor in his building. We saw that when he came back, there was a line outside the door. This is like, now what kind of place is this?
Hey, with that type of rent, that's what you get.
I guess.
You're barely making it. You might be staying behind a bakery. You never know. And I doubt that he would have made that on that Baskin-Robbins salary either.
No, not at all. Not at all.
He was already in the hole. So I think there was a lot of detail that went into the shrinking. There wasn't like, okay, he shrunk and did, a lot of the shrinking aspects was cool and entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
So, and at the same time, we got Hank doing the voiceover and the narration inside the suit. There's communication inside the suit. So it's interesting because you need that. If not, you're lost in this world and you don't know really what's going on. You have a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type of situation. You actually have somebody talking in your ear, guiding you, saying, hey, this is trial by water. I just want to see what you're capable of, and at the same time, Hank was bringing them to the house it was too much for Ant-Man. He collapsed. He passes out. And then Anthony, which wasn't deemed Anthony at the time, catches him. We don't get to see it, but he catches him and he wakes up in the house, which right. We have Hope standing there watching him, which I don't know if that was sexy or terrifying because she was standing there, but she
was standing there, but she was on her phone.
Yeah, but she was playing Sims or Candy Crush or something. She clearly wasn't watching them the whole time.
No.
She might have been on. She might have was looking for our show. It didn't exist yet. I'm pretty sure in the multiverse it existed somewhere. Bottom line is, we now get a cool shot of these other ants, and he has to step through these other ants, which again I think Hank was trying to control as well, because if you notice, they spread out every time he made a step, and it's realistic. What was realistic about this? They tried to go on with the story, but us as an audience, even though we know what was going on, who are you? Who is she? What is going on?
Right.
Like, what is this? We're talking like, okay, it's all cool, but we really haven't had that explanation about what's going on. I wasn't just supposed to agree with this and be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do whatever you want me to do.
Whose pajamas are these?
Real questions. Like, who took my clothes off? Who clothes am I wearing? Where am I?
Right.
That's what grounded it for me, and I love that aspect of it.
But no, I felt like this movie on the rewatch, because you look at where we are right now in MCU and all of the blockbusters that we've had, Infinity War and Endgame, and all this other kind of stuff, Civil War, bringing Spider-Man into the MCU, and because of all of the blockbuster movies that we've gotten since Ant-Man premiered, Ant-Man just slowly got pushed down the list just because there were so many bigger movies that came out afterwards. And it's not to say that Ant-Man is a bad movie, it's just that people tend to forget about it just because of everything else that has been focused on the larger scale of the MCU. But I thoroughly enjoyed watching this movie. The comedy was on point. The action was, even though it was like not a whole lot of action, so it's not like an action-packed movie, you still have a good balance of action and comedy, because it's not like joke. Everything's got to be funny. But for those moments, like when...
Dare you talk about Thor: Love and Thunder this way?
Listen, I have said my piece multiple times on how much I hated how many jokes they try to force into that movie. But it's like the scene where Hank is telling Hope about his mom and what happened, and they're finally getting to the truth of how Janet died, or how Janet disappeared, because of course we find out later that Janet isn't dead. But they, like you said, Michael Douglas bringing the emotion. And I forget the actress's name that played Hope. Evangeline Lilly. Yeah. Bringing the emotion, like tears, like you can see the tears on both of them. Like they feel her. It's like, well, why couldn't you just tell me the truth? Like, why couldn't you tell me that? I was trying to protect you. And so Hope was like, yes, I understand that. I'm sorry. Whereas, almost any other situation where you get the parent is like, oh, I'm just trying to protect you. And they're like, so like hurt and angry. It was like, well, if you would have just told me, then I could have had all of this time to be able to process it, rather than now I'm just finding out. But like, my mother was a hero. My mother was a superpowered person, and she died saving people.
Right.
But then, so they have that moment, and then Scott's like, this is great. This is great. You guys are healing. Mm-hmm. You're having a breakthrough. And I ruined the moment, didn't I? It's like, yes, you ruined the moment. I'm going to go make some tea. And it's just like, just small, subtle stuff like that. It's just, it's slight comedy, but it's so funny, because that I feel like everybody knows that one person where it's a serious situation and they just ruin the moment, because it's not like they're trying to be funny, but just because of the person that they are, it's like, bro, it's like, really? Like, all you had to do was just shut up for like 2 minutes and we would have been fine. But he's like, I'm gonna go make some tea. You know, and it's just all of that stuff and seeing the relationship build between Scott and Hope. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, I don't believe this relationship. There's no chemistry between them. I feel like there's a lot of chemistry between them because when we, like you said, when we get that scene where Scott well, when Hope is taking the air control thing because Scott just can't do it, and she has like this almost Scarlet Witch villain kind of moment where she's like so emotional to where she's calling all of the ants coming in, they coming over the light and starting to get dark.
I was like, oh my god!
Like she's like, I'm about to kill everybody in this room with these ants, and like where Hank had to snap her out of it was like, Hope, stop. You know, and so Scott goes and chases her in a car, and we have that moment between them where Scott's trying to get Hope to understand why it is that he doesn't want her. Well, why it is Hank doesn't want her to do it. And so Hope is telling Scott, you know, when my mom died, you know, he wasn't even there, not in the way that a father should be there. I didn't know that you had a daughter before I called the cops on you. It's like we get to see those Hope's walls breaking down and her getting to know Scott a little bit more, but she's also allowing herself to be known a little bit more and tell Scott things that she's been through. And so, like you said, Scott's like, he's not allowing you to do this because he loves you. He cares about you. I'm here because I'm expendable. I can do the job, but if it goes wrong, then and I get caught and I get killed, that's no sweat off of Hank's back because he would rather lose this fight than lose you. And so then we see Hope soften up the sky and it's like, you have to clear your mind. You have to be direct. You have to be focused. You have to be clear on what you want the ants to do. And so we see that relationship between the two of them turn around and to the point to where she cares about him when he's going to the Avengers compound. he's jumping out the plane. Hank, you son of a bitch. I thought you said this was an abandoned warehouse. Big ass Avengers A on the top of it. And then
all they had to do was play the Avengers theme. That would have made it a new phase right there.
Yeah. And so here's my thing about it. It's like Hank knew from however long ago that this was an abandoned shield base or whatever, or abandoned shield warehouse. Did he not? Because Google Maps was a thing in 2015. He could have easily researched. He had schematics, but it was old schematics, so it was of the warehouse. So did you not think to check up on that, update that at any point in time? And you just thought, oh, there was a warehouse, it's going to be a warehouse.
It was abandoned. Yeah, it's like Camp Lehigh. You know, you was thinking that, you know, nobody's there. Next thing you know, Hydra's Megamind, Zoloft has the algorithm.
Megamind. Did you call him Zoloft?
That's not his name?
No, it's Zola. Arnim Zola.
They don't call him Zoloft as a nickname?
No, I seriously doubt they call him Zoloft.
Well, that's an opportunity missed. Okay, so Ant-Man goes to the
medication for depression, I think.
Now. If you was trapped in a server, aren't you depressed?
You know what? You're probably right. You're probably right.
Sometimes I'm wrong. I'm right about that.
But yeah, it's like I just and again another opportunity for, you know, that unforced humor, that slight humor is just a small joke, you know, and we get the fight between Scott and Falcon where of course we see in future properties Ant-Man shrinking down into the tech and kind of ripping it up and malfunctioning things. And so he beats Falcon, flies away, and Sam jumps up. It's very important to me that Cap never finds out about this. And it's not that he wanted to, like, Scott didn't go there with the intention of fighting anybody. He just wanted to go in, get the item, leave.
Right.
But like I said, with that growth in the relationship between all three of them, you see Hank and Hope's concern for Scott. You know, he's there. There's an Avenger here now. You're on an Avengers compound. There could be any number of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Get out of there. You need to leave. And Scott's like, nah, I got this. Hi, I'm Scott. Did he just say, hi, I'm Scott?
Right. And afterwards, for him to be able to be successful in the mission, he earned their respect.
Right. Hank is standing there chewing him out. He's like, what you did was stupid. It was reckless. You could have gotten yourself killed. You could have jeopardized this whole thing. Guy doesn't say anything, reaches in his pocket, pulls it out. You got it. This guy's like, I got it.
Hey, don't say it like that. Don't say you reached in his pocket and pulled it out. That's misleading.
He reached in his pocket, pulled the mechanism out, and put it on the table. There's no way I can say that and it doesn't sound. You know, you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about, audience.
He pulled it out.
Right, but so you put it on the table, and so Hank was like, good work.
Yeah, what else can you say? I got the mission done. I didn't get killed, and it's a success. Retcon, they say that Falcon was talking to Natasha.
Really?
At that time, which I think was odd because Captain America was around, but they say he was talking to Natasha on the radio.
I mean, Cap could have been out on a mission. He could have been doing something.
Possibly. Potentially. I just thought I would throw that in there. But here's the thing that I do want to say about this movie. Montage. We got a lot of training montages, which I think were actually great because inside those training montages, we got to know about the different types of ants.
Yep.
Which really didn't play a part into the movie, but at the same time, it showed that.
I mean, it did at the end for the heist, for the whole heist portion of it. That's when all the ants kind of played.
That could do different things,
right? Yeah, the carpenter really ants. They build up the tower, which we saw in the Ant-Man trailer. How he himself built up a tower in order for him to reach something. Right.
And that's what I said. I think they went back to Ant-Man 1 to make Ant-Man 3. There's a lot of similar things that we saw in Ant-Man 1 that plays a part into Ant-Man 3 with new elements as well, with the multiverse and different versions of the Ant-Man for making different decisions or however they're going to play that part. And then you see a lot of Ant-Man get destroyed. Again, huge laying the groundwork. So we get a lot of training montages, which I think are cool. Simple tasks. Jump, get small, going through the hole,
come out, get big.
Come out small again, get big again. So even though we've seen him fail a couple of times, when he nailed it, that was it. We were done. He was like,
exactly. Nailed it.
and we're going on. The pacing for this movie I thought was good.
Yeah.
I thought the pacing was good, which was weird because in a lot of other places in the movie, we had weird pacing. Like there's some areas with Luis, he said something and then the camera just kind of stayed on him and he didn't say anything, but you just got these weird mannerisms in his face.
Yeah.
And it's like,
what was it?
Okay, what is this about?
I mean, they did it at the end. Because he was like, when Falcon is looking for Ant-Man, it's like, did the crazy stupid fine chick tell Avenger to tell you because you know what type with me and was Ant-Man? He was like, well, he said yes. And it just stays there on his face for like a good 15 seconds. And he's like, yes.
And then it is.
It's just like, and I think it was intentional because it's just, if you were having a conversation with Louise and he said something like that, I think that would be like your natural reaction. It's like, okay, you said this and I'm waiting on you to say something else. And I'm looking at you like, okay. It's like you're waiting for him to say something else and he just never does.
Oh my God. Great supporting characters.
Absolutely.
So, all the way around. So Ant-Man nails his training montage, and again, we got a lot of him tinkering with the suit, even to a point that he was telling Hank, "Hey, I think if you look at this regulator,
I think this regulator's holding me back
with this regulator." And then he goes into the point of giving him the explanation of the quantum realm. One of the most realistic reactions is, "Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and leave this alone then, because."
But
all of what you said sounds horrible.
And what I love about it is that they, of course, throw out this lingo, right? It's like, don't mess with the regulator. You know, the regulators keep you from shrinking into going into the quantum realm. And Scott is like, well, what does that mean? And at that point, Scott is the audience. Scott is us because they're saying all this stuff, and it was like, instead of him saying that and Scott being like, "Oh, okay, well, maybe I'll leave that alone," and then leaving the audience is like, "Well, why is that bad? What does that mean?" We have Scott asking for us. Well, what does that mean? He explains a little bit further. But what does that mean? And it's like you will shrink forever and ever for all eternity. You're like, you know what? I'm just leaving it alone. You know what they say? If it ain't broke,
yeah. If it ain't broke,
regulator's fine. Regulator's okay. Not going to touch it.
But these callbacks again, because obviously we've seen after the fight with Yellow Jacket, that's exactly what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And him knowing what happens, having a wherewithal to have the one last enlarging disc, putting it in the regulator, popping the regulator out, and just putting the disc in there, slapping it in. So thank God it saves the day. He comes out of nowhere.
Two things about that scene. One, like we talked about the callbacks, of course, Scott hears a story about what happened to Janet and having to turn off her regulator for the ICBM missile, and because it was titanium shielding, so she had to go through the molecules because it's titanium. We get the fight with Yellow Jacket. Scott's trying to go into the machinery, and Yellow Jacket, Darren says, "You idiot, it's titanium, you can't break through it." Immediately he remembers titanium. I have to shrink between the molecules, so he cuts off his regulator.
You have to do a long ass kick.
Stop it! Not that's titanium. So titanium. Titanium with an M.
Yeah.
So we get that. So here's my thing about the Deus Ex Machina of the one enlarging disc being the be all end all to save the day and everything.
Which he almost lost. Yeah.
Which he almost lost. It almost flew out of his hands, but. So he's already shrinking like infinitely.
Continuously, yes. Yeah. As awesome as I am.
So there's one enlarging disc. He puts it in a regulator. How does it know when to stop? Right? Because you're shrinking infinitely. Right? And normally you have the PIM particles. We never saw him use the enlarging disc or anything to go back to regular size. It was the PIM particles. He had the regulator, so he's at regular size. He shrinks himself down. He hits it again. He comes back big. But it was always just the PIM particles. It wasn't the enlarging disc. So he breaks the regulator. So obviously now that he doesn't have that regulation of when to stop, he puts the enlarging disc in it. He hits the button. He comes back because we saw the regulator. He popped the regulator out and it floated away. And then he put the enlarging disc in it. So he gets big, but he goes back to his regular size. How does the suit know when to stop?
There is a limit on it. Because when you see when he hit the gnome didn't just blow up to a point that it was the size of a building.
True.
It was like maybe 3 times size of what the gnome's size was.
Right. But if
we also seen Thomas the Tank Engine go to a massive size,
much
to a
bigger.
Point that it
right. The little train was smaller than the gnome, but it grew bigger than what the gnome did. So there's no consistency as into how much, because he threw it at the ant.
Okay,
and the ant grew the size of a large dog.
If you want to do this, then we're going to actually have to break down the actual science behind PIM particles, and it makes no sense. Because if you're shrinking something down and it still has the weight of what you're supposed to be, explained by Janet, that if you punch somebody too soft as a love tap, too hard and you kill them, you're like a bullet. How is Hank still able to walk around with this tank on his keychain?
Because it should have the weight of a tank.
Exactly. So we're just going to chalk that up to movie magic. And if you actually stencil this along with my hand, you'll see that I'm not writing movie magic. I'm just doing nonsense. So movie magic, buddy. That's all I can say, Spider. And that's what it was. You just got to, turn your brain off and look at this shrinking, enlarging tech.
But So we don't have to explain Home. Like I said, it came out in 2015. Everybody's seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, then you know whatever. It's been
Wonder why you
spoiled for you.
clicked this video
But
because
the one thing that we haven't discussed, because we talked about Scott, we talked about his character, we talked about the supporting characters, the comedy, we talked about Hope and Hank, but what we haven't talked about is Darren Cross. Darren Cross and his performance as a villain in this movie. I my initial watchings, I didn't really respect Darren Cross as a villain. I thought that he was.
Ooh, wow.
I just didn't think he was that great because it falls under the whole trend of having the villain who has the same powers as the hero and how it's just a carbon copy. You shrink, but I also shrink, but the only difference is I'm bad, or my color scheme is different, or oh, I shrink, but I also have lasers. You shrink and you can control ants, I shrink and I can control lasers, but I also have a jetpack. So it's like it's just these minor differences, but at the core of it, it's still the same power set, right? And so we got that with Iron Man and Ironmonger. We got that with Black Widow and Killmonger. We got that, with it happens all the time in movies and everything. So aside from that, Corey Stoll's performance as Darren Cross, upon this rewatch, I appreciate because he hit all of these like villain tropes, the narcissist, the egomaniac, the person who you get to see his slow descent into madness, right? Because obviously he's been working on this tech. He's trying to get himself. Now, what they did say that kind of didn't mesh up was that, shrinking without the helmet can have a negative effect on a person's mental well-being. That's what Hank said.
Right.
And so Darren never shrank himself without a suit. And so when we get to that final scene where there's this confrontation, we see, Hydra comes in, Donovan, what's this guy's name? Mitchell, the guy that Hank punched in the beginning of the movie. Or not punched, but slammed his face into the table.
You know how quick you gotta be to grab somebody behind their neck and slam their head into a desk?
He did it. He was Hank was younger then. He leaned in. It's like, I love the callback when they see each other again for the first time. It's like Hank. It was like, how I forgot what Mitchell asked him, and Hank was like, "How's your face?" And he was like, and then he walked off. But we get into that scene where they're all in the.
Wait a minute! Before you get away from that. Mm-hmm. Are we gonna pick up the situation because he did pick up the
the yellow jacket particle things.
Well, it's the juice or it's the suit because they have mass productions of the suit.
No, it was only one suit so far.
Him for the juice.
It was only one suit. They paid for him to make suits for them. They hadn't got the suits yet. But
he's like, they don't run on diesel.
Right.
You gotta have to come to me for the juice.
Right. And so since they wiped all the hard drives and everything, they don't have the information to mass produce the suits. And then the last suit that he was wearing shrunk with him into the quantum realm. And also all he has is just a vial of the juice.
So are we going to do like Thanos did when he got the pin particle juice
and reverse engineer
this?
I don't know. Could be possible. I can't. If there is an Ant-Man 4,
you cannot leave this plot thread just right there.
They might.
Marvel, don't do it
unless it comes back into play in like another franchise, or another movie or something. I don't know.
This is true too, but you need somebody that can shrink down because you're gonna have shrinking people to deal with it.
Right. But so we get into that scene with all of them, and they're confronting Hank, and Ant-Man's caught. He's in the little suit, like containment area, and so Darren is getting ready to kill Hank, or ordering Hank to be killed, and Hope is telling him, this isn't you. The suit is affecting your mind. But to that,
which before then he has never put the suit on.
As far as we know, he's never put the suit on. But even if he did have the suit on and he was like practicing shrinking to make sure it worked and make sure he survived, it's still, Hank said that without the helmet is the one that protects your, your consciousness, your intellect, your brain or whatever. But so maybe that if Darren was wearing the suit, if his helmet wasn't designed the same way that Hank's helmet was designed, then maybe that could have had an effect on his, his mental capacity. But like you said, we never saw him put the suit on.
But well, something had to be going on. The man was going to kill Hank Pym in front of his own daughter.
Well, he wasn't going to kill him. He wasn't going to kill him in front of her. He said he came to the house ready to kill Hank, but he didn't because Hope was there.
But he was about to kill him in front of her right then.
Oh, right there, yeah.
So clearly unstable.
Yes, clearly unstable.
Something's going on.
And so we know that there was
because waffles.
Because Louise was always making waffles.
After you would let Louise make him some waffles, he wouldn't have had these visions.
But we saw that there was a good bit of time because of the different training montages, and we saw I based it off of how many times we saw Hope change clothes, because we saw like all of the different times that Scott was trying to jump through the keyhole. Every time he hit the door, Hope had on a different outfit. So it was
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it gives you a little bit more of a bearing as to like, okay, these are actually multiple days that have passed by. So yeah. We know that even after he built the little containment, thing for the sheep, and he was able to shrink the sheep inside the little containment box. We know that was like the point to where, okay, now he can shrink organic matter. And so I would think that that's when he started using the suit and started shrinking himself then to like prepare himself for this presentation or whatever. So there was still some days after that where he could have like slowly descended into becoming crazy.
Yeah, she did come back and say, now we have days versus months. And just to show how much of a dick Mr. Cross was, even though he shrank the sheep, he still plucked it.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, because I'm a dick. That's why. Oh man. Oh, this movie. I don't think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think we had a lot of other movies that had grander stakes, and there's nothing to take away from Ant-Man. It just kind of pushed it further down the MCU list.
Right.
But I think you need to go ahead and put Ant-Man in your top tier, man. I think you need to stop saying he's a B-list, C-list type of celebrity as far as, heroes.
I'm not saying he's C-list. I'm just saying that because, like you said, because of his power set, because you have a world-ending threat. Like, okay, before you think about it, before Ant-Man could become Giant Man, you put him in the Avengers, you put him in Age of Ultron. How helpful could he be?
Extremely.
Can he?
Yeah. He's already shown in his first movie he can go inside the suits and start breaking them apart from the inside.
Right, but
he can actually his ants in there and do the same thing.
And that's the thing.
Oh, come on.
Because after this movie, and I'm gonna have to rewatch Ant-Man and the Wasp, I feel like they stepped away from the whole controlling ants aspect.
That's what I want to get into as well, because it's not prevalent in the second one. And we could talk about that more in our rewatch when we do Ant-Man and the Wasp next week. But that's what's missing in the Ant-Man movie. More ants. We need more ants.
That makes Ant-Man Ant-Man. Other than that, he's just shrinking man.
Right. This isn't Atom Smasher. This is Ant-Man. We need more ants. We need more kind of ants, more species of ants, and they're kind of getting away from the ants and more towards the family dynamic. But do you want to see Cassie? Even as stature, she doesn't control ants. No. She just shrinks and grows. We need more Ant-Man with ants. I mean, when Anthony got shot, I felt that. Because again, You had Scott Lang saying, "I'm not going to call him 247 or 248 or 7."
Mm-hmm.
He gave him a name. He said, "I'm going to call you Anthony." He's feeding him water droplets. You got that personal
this ant's name is
connection.
247. Scott, there are thousands of ants. It doesn't have a name, it has a number.
I'm calling him Anthony. And he ruled Anthony like he was his best friend, and then he got shot. He says, "You're going to regret that." And he was serious. He didn't immediately rename the new ant. He's like, "Okay, you're Anthony now." It's like, I'm
precise. And again, this will probably have to go into the science of everything. How precise for a bullet to hit the ant, but not hit Ant-Man?
It could have grazed like the bottom half because he got thrown.
If you go back and watch that frame by frame, that bullet hit Anthony square in the face. Like, no lie, that bullet hit Anthony straight in the face, and it popped Ant-Man off of him to where he flipped and flew onto and landed on another ant. But no, that bullet hit Anthony like square
I don't
right
think
here.
Darren Cross. I don't think he was using any type of targeting mechanism.
Absolutely not. He was just shooting. Just shooting flying ants. That's all he was doing. He's just shooting at flying ants.
And in the middle of night, so I can't see gnats in the daytime.
The man was unhinged. The man was unhinged. But it was like, well, when I was just going back to like all of the villain tropes and everything, when he and Hope were like out to dinner, and he was kind of like telling her like, you know, this is how far we've come and all this other kind of stuff. Just a line of, you know, I had this thought when I was doing my morning meditation, and that's just like, that's a line that somebody who is like a stereotypical bad guy, it's like, oh, I do all this healthy stuff, I'm on a juice cleanse, I do my morning yoga and I meditate. It's like, oh, look how healthy and sane I am.
Zen I am, right?
Right. Only to like at the end of the movie, he's like chaotic. And one thing I will say that something that goes unappreciated and you probably didn't notice, the level of talent that goes into the different screams that they had in this movie. It wasn't a lot, but when they did happen, they were greatness. Because when Yellow Jacket was stuck into the bug zapper and like the electricity brought him back alive, he let out like this horror type scream. Yeah. Like coming back to life. And then when Paxton went in the house and the ant was coming down the stairs and he saw it and he let out this high-pitched scream, it's just like,
yeah, that's crazy.
It's small and it's stupid, but it's something that I appreciate about the movie, because even with those two, I enjoyed the screams so much.
Special effects in the model when he was getting shot at, special effects on the train fight sequence, the comedy between the train fight sequence, and it was hilarious. Thomas the Tank Engine running over Yellow Jacket.
I wish they wouldn't have put it in a trailer. I wish they would have left that part out of the trailer and just let that be in the movie, because if not, I mean, even that's probably like one of the greatest parts of the movie, but I think if they left it out of the trailer and that would have been a reveal in the movie, that would have just been like, that would have truly been like the best part of the movie.
I don't know. I was pretty hammered by the fight scene inside the briefcase with the lifesavers and the iPhone. And here's what I do want to see, which I know I probably never will see. And if we ever saw it, I wish I can just go back to this video, but I'll probably forget. The helicopter.
Mm-hmm. Where did that
pilot died. Co-pilot died. They fell out of the helicopter inside of the briefcase. I would love to see a hero actually come and
catch
part
that.
of their origin story, catch that helicopter and like really just put it down or stop it from something, because there's not many heroes in San Francisco. No. There's Shang-Chi
and Ant-Man.
and the West Coast Avengers that'll come later on. But there's not really many established. They're really normally established
at that point in
New York.
time. At that point in time, I don't think there was anybody to catch that helicopter.
And that's what I'm saying. If you want to tie into these small parts, and give me somebody in San Fran that say, "Oh my God, that helicopter is clearly on fire and smoking," and
you just see you see a briefcase in a distance with like little lasers popping out of it, and it just falls.
You will know exactly when that was.
Right.
And it's like, cool. I like this guy because he saved people, and clearly those pilots are dead. But at the same time, he stopped this helicopter from crashing into a building or a house.
I think only one of the pilots died, because I think one of the pilots got shot in the head. So I think that one.
And the other one got lasered.
The other one got lasered, but he only got lasered like right through the shoulder. So I don't think he died. If he may have died in a crash if that helicopter didn't get saved, but I don't think he died from the laser shot.
Bring Nova in like he was visiting. He's like, oh, look at helicopters.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I thought some of the fight scenes were some of the cooler fight scenes, and like I said, the comedy aspect of it. They didn't have to put the cell phone in there to play the soundtrack. To play the
music, yeah. But it's like, how do you get music in the fight scene and have it be part of the actual scene?
Exactly. And then they had this nice African-American family. Looked like they were grilling shiitake mushrooms or something.
Just having a nice barbecue out by the pool, playing some ping pong.
Next thing you know, this guy comes creepy out the pool, and then Ant-Man shows up. He's like, hi!
No, he takes the ping pong paddle, swats Yellow Jacket into the freaking bug zapper, and then he just turned around. It's okay. And like,
like, this is crazy. I'm out of here. It makes, and those type of reactions, those real reactions, it's not like, oh, hey, dude, what's going on?
Right.
Hey, I just don't know what's going on. I'm out of here.
This man grow into the pool and then shrink back down. Now this other man grew out of nowhere, popped the other one into the bug zapper, and it's like, what is happening? We gotta get to see that in the next one. But yeah, it just yeah, but Darren Cross is just I appreciate him more as a villain now. I get to actually listen to him. It's like, yeah, I feel like of course on the rewatches you always get to get a little bit more context into what the villain is saying, being able to listen and understand because you're not taking in everything for the first time. But just hearing him and that moment between Darren and Hank. And it was like, well, why did you, why me? And Hank's like, I don't know what you mean. He's like, all those years ago, you picked me. Why? And Hank was like, because I saw myself in you. And he's like, well, why did you push me away? And you can see the pain in his face. It was like, you were my mentor. I looked up to you. And then you just abandoned me. He was like, well, why did you push me away? Because I saw too much of myself in you. And it's like, ooh, right here in the heart.
Not to mention you're a dick. So that's nothing about Darren Cross that doesn't have I'm a dick written on it. Like you said, from your morning meditation to your day-to-day, he probably made Hope pay for the dinner. Probably. He's a dick. He's a dick. He does dick things and dick type moves. And nobody wants to be around a dick.
Who just walks into a person's house? It's like, Darren, what are you doing here? You left the front door open, Hank. It's official. You're old. It was like,
so not only do you do a V&E, breaking and entering, you're going to insult me as well?
You didn't announce yourself. Because I know you had to hear them talking in the back.
My shit. Yeah, that's how you knew Hope was there.
Right. And it was knock, knock. Hey, I'm in the living room. He just in the living room, just looking through, just pro.
Every time he called Hank to the office, it's to gloat.
Right.
It's seriously to gloat. And it's like, look at what I'm doing. We could have did this together, but you abandoned me. So look what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm selling the Hydra. They're not what they used to be. First of all, shout out for that line. The villain, you're like,
right.
I just want to sell to the highest bidder.
Right.
It's like, dude, we know they're horrible. That's the old stuff. You're just trying to work this out.
And then, of course, because of the eagle-eyed viewers, we see that, one of the guys that was working with Mitchell, supposedly from Hydra, has the 10 rings tattoo on his neck. You know,
because it's all connected.
Right.
It's all connected.
And it's just so funny, like because I know that excuse me. I know that back then when Ant-Man first came out, we didn't have as many like content creators doing like deep dives into, you know, all of the Easter eggs and all this other kind of stuff. So I don't think it was until like fairly recently that we got
phase 3, beginning of phase 2, beginning of phase 3.
Well, this was the end of phase 2. But I don't think we really got the realization of that connection until like somewhere in the middle of like the end of phase 3, maybe beginning of phase 4. That's when people like were able to go back and see, like rewatch Ant-Man was like, oh shit, nobody even noticed that he had a 10 rings tattoo on his neck.
I noticed in the theater. I noticed.
Oh, well, you're better than me because I sure didn't.
How many other people noticed in our show? All the little subtleties and Easter eggs that we do.
I don't know. Because I don't notice half of them and I'm in a video, so I don't blame you if you miss it.
I blame you. Go back and watch.
Listen. But overall, if we're giving Ant-Man the treatment that we give every movie that we review on All Things Super, we have to ask the question, 2015 Ant-Man, starring Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, Corey Stoll. Is it super?
Goddamn right it's super. Goddamn right it's super. For the time, enjoyable then, enjoyable now as a rewatch. And we actually talked about this in many different conversations. What constitutes you want to rewatch a great movie? Again, there's some questionable pacing, but other than that, everything is enjoyable. There's some misleads, there's some Easter eggs, there's some foolery that doesn't make sense. Chalk that up to movie magic. Mm-hmm. And then there's some elements that are just sci-fi action-y. And I love a heist movie. I just do. I love a heist movie. I think we got away from the heist aspect in Ant-Man 2. Yeah. We're gonna watch that, rewatch that to get a more concise review on it next week. So if you haven't set your calendar to tune in for that, set it now. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button while you're doing it.
They even called out the heist. Did you think you can stop me with a heist? It was never just a heist.
Right? And the fact that they had people that close to the explosion have it explode and then go inward into implosion. So no one got hurt. Ant-Man.
Did anyone get hurt? So I know you're
Hank got shot.
Hank got shot, yeah, but I'm saying so, and this was one thing when I was watching this, I wanted to bring this up. So we got the brief and like we said, the callbacks are so good. The brief just like line where Scott, not that one. That one was another funny one. Oh. Scotty needs our help. We gotta go help him. They pull up and there's nothing but cops.
Nothing's gonna stop us.
Back it up. Just go ahead and back it up. Just back it up.
I think there's a lot of improv in this.
Absolutely. But no, the one line when Scott's getting out of jail, Louise picked him up and he's like, "Oh, well, what happened to your face?" He was like, "Oh, Peachy going away, the going away ritual is like, I couldn't knock him out." And so Louise said, "I'm the only one to ever knock Peachy out." And so we see when they're doing their heist, everybody that Louise punches immediately knocks them out every single time. So Louise got them hands.
Think you dumb if you won't try to run up on Louise so I should knock you out.
But the thing about it is when they're leaving the building, we see them running out before the explosion's about to go off. There are two guys shooting at Scott. Louise knocks both of them out. Saves Scott. Scott is like, "You got to get out of here. The bomb's about to go off." And Louise is like, "Are we the good guys?" It's like, it feels kind of weird, right? We're the good guys. We're not trying to, steal from people and stuff. Before Louise leaves, there's the head of security. "Oh, what are you doing here? Boss man said to secure the area, so I'm securing it." He was like, "Well, I'm the boss." And so he knocks him out, takes his clothes, right? He stops to go get that guy and pull him out of the building. The other two guys that he just knocked out, were they still in there? Or did somebody else get them out? So that's what I'm saying. You saying nobody got hurt. I know those two guys were still knocked out. I don't think Louise went back in and got them because we saw Louise coming out with the guy that he took his clothes. What about those other two dudes? And all the other people that got beat up in the little in the suit room.
They're in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
They're all struggling down the quantum realm.
Part of the resistance, and they're not mentally.
You know what? We saw all the different. We saw all those different little people and figures and stuff in the quantum realm. That could be some of them people.
On all things super, we are giving y'all the stuff that y'all didn't even know y'all needed. Now you know how those people got there.
Right.
The people that just got shrunk down inside this building, and they came out and they seen Janet, and they were like, I know your husband. I got beef with your husband. And then Hank's going to the quantum realm. They're going to be like, yeah, Mr. Pym, let's go.
Hank might die in this movie. It's going to be a whole Wanda Thanos thing. You took everything from me. I don't even know who you are.
I don't even know who you are. I worked for you. Yeah, it's a Quentin Beck type of situation because I worked at your company. Now I got shrunk for all eternity. And again, what you're saying, how do we know to stop shrinking once you hit the quantum realm? Mm-hmm. Aren't you continuously shrinking after that? Or is that just you can't shrink any further down?
Don't know.
Yeah. Movie magic.
There you go.
Spider, Ant-Man, the Ant-Man, not Ant-Man and the Wasp, not Quantumania, just the OG Ant-Man Phase 2 ending. Super? Was it super? Is it super?
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely super. It was a fun rewatch. I forgot how funny this movie was. You know, Ant-Man, Paul Rudd is always appreciated. Paul Rudd has just almost just about any other comedy movies that I've seen Paul Rudd in. He's always delightful. He's always great. And seeing him as a superhero, every time we get to see Paul Rudd, we get to see him in all of the Ant-Man movies, Civil War, we've seen him in Endgame. He still, even though when his role is reduced to where he's, stereotypically the comic relief, but it's still that he's more than just a comic relief. He still adds, some heart, some wonder. We saw in Endgame, the excitement that he had, when they were talking about the Infinity Stones and all of this is new to him. Like, he's part of the Avengers now. So he's learning about all of the stuff that they went through that he didn't have a part of. Because like we said before, everything is normally localized to New York. So we get, from Scott Lang's perspective, he could, read about it or see it on the news or anything like that. But to hear about it firsthand from the heroes who are a part of it, he's just like a kid, story time. He's so excited about everything. And it's
they love him. Look how the Hulk gave him his tacos after he lost his tacos when the Minotaur landed.
That was, Nebula did that on purpose. Either Nebula or Rocket, one of them, they did it on purpose.
I don't deny it. Either one of those
did it on purpose.
Either one of those individuals will definitely fit that mold. Yeah, they probably turn the thrusters extra on.
Rhodey, be careful on re-entry. There's an idiot in the landing zone. And then War Machine drop in. What's up, regular size man? It's like, why are they giving us so much shit? It's not fair. Ant-Man doesn't deserve this.
Yeah, he's gonna die.
You gotta understand that, Rhodey and Ant-Man have a little bit of beef because of in Civil War. Ant-Man grew big and grabbed him by the leg. He's like, oh, Tiny Man is big now, so they got their little beef going on between them.
Threw him. And Spider-Man caught him before he got smashed into that goddamn plane.
And then he smashed into the ground about 2 minutes later. But I mean, Ant-Man is Ant-Man
was a different time.
It was a different time. But no, Ant-Man is absolutely super. It was a great rewatch, and it's always fun rewatching these movies and finding that love for the movie again. And it's not one that you're like, oh, I just watched it, I want to rewatch it again. But this is one that you can say, oh, I haven't watched Ant-Man in a while. I can stand to watch Ant-Man and laugh a little bit and enjoy it, even though of course what's going to happen. It's still enjoyable. It's still funny, But no, it was great. It was a great rewatch. I am absolutely glad that we did this.
Right? And if you didn't do it, it, then you need to watch it and then come back and watch us.
Right.
Or
exactly.
if you could just watch us.
Oh, you already watched us and you hear how much that we enjoyed watching Ant-Man again. You're like, you know what? Maybe I should watch Ant-Man again. You absolutely should. Watch Ant-Man again.
Good. Get some close friends or loved ones. Sit down, get popcorn or tacos and watch Ant-Man.
Get tacos and watch Ant-Man. Make waffles. Make waffles and watch Ant-Man.
There you go. There you go. Look at you. Waffle Man.
Not Waffle Man. No, not Waffle Man. But let us know if you did rewatch Ant-Man or if you even have fond memories of Ant-Man. Let us know what you think about Ant-Man in the comments. Let us know what you think about Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, all the people who starred in Ant-Man.
Know who's going to win out of the Wasp and Black Widow.
Let us know who would win out of the Wasp and Black Widow. I already know my answer.
But should be the Wasp.
No, absolutely not.
She can control ants.
She can't control ants. Does she have the thing in her helmet to control ants? Like we said, Ant-Man, we'll talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp next week. We'll get into that, and we'll revisit this whole question about the ants. Are the ants going to make a return? But if you like the video, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes that come out. If you want the audio version of the podcast, just search for All Things Super on any of your major podcast streaming platforms. And if you want to join in on the conversation, just tweet at us at ATSuperPod.
And we like reading the comments.
We like reading the comments. So go to the comments and leave one.
Leave more than one. There's no judgment here. We won't judge.
Leave as many comments as you want. Don't spam the comments.
Goddamn right.
If you want to leave a comment, make sure that each one is a little bit different. But we'll still read all of them.
Say hi. Anyway. I want waffles and tacos. Ooh, you get a waffle taco. See? Great minds think alike. Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week with our rewatch and review of Ant-Man and the Wasp. So go watch it. Join us so you can be a part of the conversation as well. But until then, we appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next episode.